近道而嚟嘅大家嘅朋友嘅出現啦嚇。咁就今年咧，其實就係我哋核能真相多面睇。舊年喺福島1週年呢個核災1週年嘅時候，我哋搞過一次啦，就叫做核能真相多面睇啦嘅研討會。咁今年係一個延續嘅第2年嚇。咁我哋就喺呢1年以嚟咧，都觀察到一個情況，就係雖然我哋舊年從多面睇咧都睇唔到有咩理由唔反核啦嚇。咁但係咧，就呢1年以嚟咧，都係依然即係個社會有相當大嘅程度咧，俾一啲專家嚇到啊嚇。講到核能嘅問題，大家就話可能都要反核。不過啲專家出嚟話冇問題嘅時候，我哋點駁佢咧？我哋點樣去回應咧？所以都係對於係即係參與呢一個反核嘅過程咧，係有啲 You need translation, you understand me？ 而家冇緊，係嘛係啦，咁咧就即係有呢個咁樣嘅問題嚇。咁我哋今日咧就其實都係幾針對呢個問題嚟辦呢一個即係福島核災2週年嘅活動嘅嚇。咁我哋因為喺呢1年嚟啦，我哋見到譬如成立咗一個叫做核學會嘅東西嚇，好似係一個民間團體，但係你見到咧就嗰啲專家就喺呢個學會入邊咧當然係攞一啲中電錢嚟到去即係辦一啲所謂學術嘅活動啊，解釋俾社會聽乜嘢核有幾安全啊咁樣嚇。咁但係你睇下佢錢從何來咧嚇，就好明顯嘅啲嘢。咁另外就係我哋現任嘅副環境局長陸恭蕙啦嚇，咁佢當佢係做緊佢嗰個司會嘅呢個聲聽嘅時候咧，咁佢亦都係搞一啲講核能啊、講能源嘅活動咧，都係呢個電力公司係俾錢嘅嚇。咁即係有呢啲咁嘅情況之下，我諗大家都可以知道係無需要即係害怕話專家講嘢梗係權威啦嚇，即係我哋都行埋一邊啦嚇，即係反核都講唔過佢哋嚇，我諗都係冇咁嘅必要咯。咁田松老師即係好一再同我哋強調嘅所謂呢個即係資本權力嚇，咁當然加埋呢個學術呢個咁嘅共同體利益共同體咧係好明顯嘅喺呢個核能嘅問題上嚇。咁尤其是喺呢個學術咧嚇，即係大家我諗係最忽略嘅一層嘅。咁你話官商勾結嚇，通街都會咁講，但係喺學術上如何勾結咧？咁我今日咧，我哋就請嚟我哋嘅嘉賓啦，同我哋睇一睇咧，就係佢哋嚟自福島，佢哋嚟自佢嚟自呢個即係喺東京去做一個，亦都不斷咁去福島做呢個採訪嚇。咁亦都係有田老師佢即係嚟自一個將要大為發展核能嘅呢個核大國，將要成為嘅一個情況嚇。咁佢哋就提出佢哋嘅經驗同批判嚇，就幫助我哋咧係進一步即係自己有一個準備嚇。我哋係冇需要係由於有啲專家係話俾我哋聽，我哋冇資格講核能，只有佢哋自有嚇，我哋冇需要害怕呢一樣嘢。咁喺呢個接近今年嘅311嘅時期咧，就其實我哋見到好多啲偽科學嘅報告咧又出籠㗎啦嚇，到上下佢就嚟㗎啦。雖然佢都企圖希望大家忘記呢件事，但係又即係小不免都有人記得㗎啦嚇，例如大家啦，咁於是佢哋又有啲咁嘅嘢出籠。其中一樣嘢咧，就我都喺啲傳媒都會見到，就係話，福島嘅廠附近嘅核輻射已經降咗40%啦嚇。呢句咩説話嚟咧？第一，佢係咪啱啱喺嗰度清理完嗰啲表土 topsoil， 然之後就降到低咗40%啊？嗰啲 topsoil 跟住掉咗邊咧？係咪啱啱咪衝咗落去大海咧？40%係咪好安全咧？之前10%嘅梗係唔安全啦嚇，而家40%係咪大家就可以喺嗰度過活咧？但係佢就係呢啲咁樣嘅偽科學嘅報告咧，就會走出嚟，大家咁樣越嚟越少啦，冇嘢啦咁樣嚇。咁你問下我哋呢位嘉賓野口時子嘅女士嚇，呢40%係表示咩嘢嚇？好啦，咁亦都係有啲嘅報導嘅，例如呢個世衛啦嚇 WHO 世衛嘅報導啦，咁就咁大家最近都可能睇到嘅，咁佢就話呢個甲狀腺即係都會引起喺福島嘅地方引起呢個甲狀腺癌即係日後嘅上升嘅咁樣嚇。咁當然香港嘅核學會嘅專家就話上升咪上升咯，升咗少少幾好啊。咁佢都俾人鬧嚇，佢俾醫學界嘅人鬧，總算香港有個人會出下聲嚇。點解你作為一個我唔理你核工程師你做咩會話癌症上升係冇事？ 你憑咩咁講？咁其實呢個我哋都唔需要醫學專家同我哋講啦，我哋每一個人都可以講，係咪？癌色唱色做咩係冇問題嘅嚇。好啦，咁即係世衛做咗呢個報告，但係大家可能就冇留意咧，世衛喺呢段同樣嘅時間，亦做咗另一個報告。呢個報告咧就係話呢個塑化劑啊嚇，塑化劑呢樣嘢咧引致都會甲狀腺癌上升、白血病上升。畸胎會出現，佢列咗一列嘅病出嚟咧，其實大家係一向係認為嗰啲病咧都同輻射好有關係。喺呢一個階段，世衛係會發表個報告話塑化劑引致呢啲病嚇。咁我唔係話塑化劑係好嘢，所有呢啲嘢都係傷害我哋嘅生命嘅嚇，地球上嘅生命，我哋人類嘅生命。但係唔係話有嗰樣嘢有問題，於是大家就掩蓋咗呢個輻射嘅問題嘅嚇。咁呢個我成日想提醒一點就係呢個所謂 synergy 呢一個概念嚇，係會共同發生作用嘅。佢首先就係令到人嗰個細胞膜嚇，或者係生物嘅細胞膜，佢嘅 DNA 嘅分子鏈嚇受到破壞。咁如果你個人再接受一啲塑化劑翻嚟，咁你梗係會更加容易出事，或者倒轉頭，你受到塑化劑嘅傷害。但係你而家再受到輻射嘅傷害，你當然發病嘅機會係大好多嚇。我哋唔應該被嚇到話乜嘢都會出事嘅呢個地球，我哋係冇力量嘅人，乜嘢都會出事。嗰啲令到我哋出事嘅嘢，我哋就要睇真係邊個嘅利益，考慮自己嘅利益，令到大家都會出事嚇。咁我諗即係喺呢個咁嘅情況之下咧，即係嗰啲虛假嘅專家嘅嗰啲咁嘅科學咧，就會可以彈出咯嚇，人民重新掌握科學係乜嘢嘢嚟嘅嚇，係佢同佢哋嘅生命同佢哋地球上嘅生命有關嚇，呢一啲咁樣嘅體會係呢一啲咁嘅理解，就係我哋人民嘅科學啦。咁啊，阻咗大家好多時間，就請跟住落嚟嘅一場嘅主持葉柱正先生去簡單介紹一下講者。
咁啊，跟住咧就我哋好高興啦，請到David McNeil咁啊嚟同佢分享咧喺福島採訪核災經驗啦，同埋佢咧介紹本書嘅。咁啊，David McNeil咧就一位好資深嘅記者啦，同埋咧喺日本上智大學咧教Media and Politics 傳媒同埋政治嘅課程啦。咁咧佢採訪福島核災之後咧，就寫一本書，合著一本書啦，叫《Strong in the Rain》無懼風雨。咁咧裏邊就訪問咗幾位咧當地日本嘅居民。咁咧另外咧David McNeil咧亦都係咧多間嘅報紙嘅撰稿員啦，包括咧呢個Independent 呢個嘅獨立報啦。日本時報啦、國際先驅論壇報啦、南華早報啦等等都登過嘅稿嘅。咁同埋咧，佢都係咧日本外國記者協會嘅主席。咁咧，我諗而家個時間就交俾。
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, so I have 25 minutes, is that right? 25 minutes? Okay. So I am going to try and speak slowly for the translator because I've done some translating in Japan and it's very difficult. So I feel sorry for the translator having to translate my accent. Okay, so I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I am a reporter, a daily newspaper reporter, and I reported on the Fukushima disaster mainly for two newspapers. One is the UK Independent newspaper, and you can find, if anybody's interested, you can find my articles on that newspaper. And also for the Irish Times, which is an Irish newspaper. I wrote about 300 or 400 articles during the disaster and afterwards for those newspapers. And also I'm a coordinator for a website called japanfocus.org. This one here, again, if you're interested in reading any of the things that we talk about today, that's where to go. So I thought what I would do is, because we have so little time, I would just focus on the question, is the Fukushima crisis over? That's the key question we want to ask today. Is the crisis over? Because as CY says, there's a lot of pressure now from the government side in Japan, from the TEPCO side, from the operator, to say that the crisis is over. And what I want to say today is that the crisis isn't over, it's being managed, and that's a big difference. So the crisis at Fukushima is still going on, it's just that it's being managed in a different way. So let me give you some facts. Just in terms of the number of people who had to leave their homes because of the disaster to evacuate, it's about 160,000 people, according to TEPCO, this is TEPCO's figures, who had to what's called forcibly leave their homes. Yeah? Kyōseiteki hinan in Japanese, forcibly leave their homes. There's another, a very unclear figure about how many people had to voluntarily leave their homes. So most of the people who evacuated left around a 20-kilometer area of the power plant and a few villages outside, places like Itatemura. And the rest of the people who voluntarily left, they're not always, usually people like mothers who have children who are worried about the radiation impact on their children. So the government generally says that the radiation level outside of the 20-kilometer zone is safe. But the people who live in Fukushima Prefecture, there's about 2 million people in the whole prefecture. Some of them, of course, believe it isn't safe. And if I have a child, and I think I would prioritize my child, you know, I would not take a risk with my child, even if the government said it's safe. And there's a pattern, if you like, among the evacuees, okay? Which is, in a lot of cases, it's women who move out of the prefecture with their children, and the husband doesn't want to move because he has tied to a job. He has a job there, he doesn't want to leave. And in many cases, there's arguments between the husband and the wife, and there's a phenomenon called the Fukushima divorce, which is families splitting apart because they have this argument over whether to leave or not, the Fukushima divorce. So that's the situation. Now, a lot of people are trying, of course, to get compensation. Those 160,000 people are trying to get compensation. And in almost all cases, I'll just stop this. This here is a guy called Katsuzo Soji. And he's a very good example of the kind of story we have from the Fukushima disaster. He was a farmer in a place called Itatemura, and he was told in late March of 2011, because Itatemura initially the government said that that's safe. And most people who saw the radiation, of course it didn't go towards Tokyo, the radiation went northwest, away from the plant, and it rained on top of Itatemura, and Itatemura got very contaminated. And Itatemura village is about 6,000 or 7,000 people. And Shoji-san, this man here, he was a farmer, small farm. He was growing cabbages, he was growing daikon, he was keeping a few cattle. You know, an ordinary guy. The farm was in his family's hands since the 1870s. So over 140 years this farm had been in his hands. And he was told, you have to leave, you have to go, and you have to leave everything, and you have to dig up your crops and destroy your crops, and you have to kill your animals. And he just had to leave with his wife and his child. And since that's 2 years ago now, since that happened, Shoji-san has received a total of 4 million yen in compensation. 4 million yen is about what? I always mix this up. $30,000, something like that. Is that right? Something like that. But he has yet to be compensated for the cost of his property, of his farm, of his animals, and of course he has yet to be compensated for the loss of his life. You know, the loss of all of the things that he had in his beautiful farm in Itatemura. And that's typical. So none of the refugees yet have received compensation for their assets. Most of them are living in temporary accommodation. In Shoji-san's case, he's living in a 2-roomed temporary apartment in Date, which is about 60 kilometers away from where he had his farm. So that's the situation with them. What about the cost? The cost. Well, the cost of cleaning up the disaster keeps going up. There's a think tank in Tokyo called the Japan Center for Economic Research, very credible think tank. It's just re-estimated the decontamination cost alone. This is only decontaminating in Fukushima Prefecture and compensating people at $600 billion. $600 billion, which is approaching the cost of the banking meltdown in America in 2-3 years ago. It's about that cost, okay, or a little less than that cost. And in terms of radiation, the reactors, so we all know there's 3 melted down reactors at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant. The reactors are still leaking radiation at a much smaller rate than they were in the disaster. So the figures, which I'll give you, they're leaking at a rate of 10 million becquerels a measure of radiation per hour. That's for cesium. And right after the disaster, on the 2 days after the disaster, it was 800 trillion becquerel of cesium. So it's way, way down. Okay, that's the human cost. What about the cleanup? What about cleaning up from this disaster? So, a big part of the government's strategy is that they're going to, all around the most contaminated areas, they're going to scrape away 5 centimeters of soil from schoolyards, from public places, to try and remove the radiation, mainly cesium. Cesium is the most important radiation. They also have power hoses. So they go around with power hoses. You've seen them on TV maybe, guys with white suits, and they power hose roofs and all the rest of it. The other way they're trying to do this is by digging up the ground, you know, the topsoil, and then bringing it to places and leaving it. That's the contaminated soil. Now that whole strategy is incredibly expensive, right? There are thousands and thousands of construction workers up in Fukushima Prefecture trying to fix this problem. Sendai, which is the biggest major city in the area, has become a boom town because there's so many construction workers. And the strategy is very, very unlikely to succeed. It's a very strange strategy. So if you talk to farmers, I've been up in Itatemura many times. You know, I've been around the power plant, so there's a couple of farmers still up there, still holding out. They call themselves human guinea pigs, trying to make themselves, you know, guinea pigs for this radiation experiment. There's a guy called Nobuyoshi Ito. Nobuyoshi Ito, who's, you should check him out. He's on Facebook, very interesting guy. He's got a farm in Itatemura. And he says that whole strategy the government has is bullshit. And here's why. You cannot scrape 5 centimeters of soil off a farm. You know, if you think about radiation, it sinks into the soil. 5 centimeters is not enough. Also, the radiation is on the trees and the forests, up on the top, and it washes down back into the farms and contaminates them again. What he says is they should just completely plant all of those areas, the contaminated areas, into sunflowers, because sunflowers have a history of absorbing radiation, right? But because of the way Japan works, they have given all of this money to the construction companies to try and clean it up. And I always talk about a place called Minami Soma, which is about 15 kilometers, 12 or 15 kilometers north of the power plant, is a city of about 72,000 people, and it's typical of the sort of crisis, if you will. So Minami Soma, of course, was badly affected by the radiation, and about 80 to 90% of the population ran away from Minami Soma. So the population went from 72,000 to roughly between 10 and 12, we're not quite sure. The population now is still a third less than it was before the crisis began. Many areas are still contaminated. The mayor, Sakurai-san, who's a very good guy, I know him quite well, he's telling people, it's okay, you know, you can come back, it's safe now. But because parents are worried about their children, they're not coming back. Many parents will never go back to Minamisoma. And they also, of course, have to be compensated, those people. All right, what about the nuclear plant? What's the story in the nuclear plant? Well, I've been inside the nuclear plant twice, and I've also been to the gates of the nuclear plant. That's why I have this hairstyle. That's a joke. The official story on the nuclear power plant is that it has reached the state of what's called cold shutdown. Cold shutdown. Cold shutdown is when the nuclear fuel is stable. It's stable. It's below, not boiling point, below 100 degrees. It reached that, the government said it reached that in December 2011. That's considered a controversial term because cold shutdown usually means that the engineers know where the nuclear fuel is. They know where it is, it's under control. In the case of Fukushima, in the 3 melted down reactors, they don't know where it is. They estimate. They can't find it because it's melted down. And they haven't been able to see it yet. They haven't been able to send in equipment yet to see where it is. The problems at the power plant, first of all, of course, is very, very high radiation in parts of the power plant, which makes it very hard to work there. So we were in the power plant last week. The government, TEPCO gives you, the journalists, a tour once every year so that we can see everything's okay, you know? But of course everything's not okay. When we were taken to the number 3 reactor, which is the most contaminated reactor, the radiation outside Unit 3 was 1,700 microsieverts an hour. 1,700 microsieverts an hour, which is enough to induce radiation sickness. You cannot work in it. What they're trying to do is they're trying to remove the melted down fuel from the 3 melted down reactors, and that's going to take many, many years. So when we asked the plant manager, he said that he estimates the melted fuel will be taken out in 2021. And it will take up to 40 years, so he said between 30 and 40 years to completely decommission the plant. I'll probably be dead by the time he does it. And the big problem that many people are looking at is the fuel pool in reactor 4. So 2 of the reactors were offline when all of this happened. 3 melted down, and the fuel pool, which is where all the nuclear fuel is stored, for reactor 4, the building roof blew off, and it left all of those very, very radioactive fuel rods exposed to the air. And many people are very worried about that because they say if there's another earthquake that there could be a very catastrophic release of radiation from fuel pool 4. Now, TEPCO's argument, which they have said to us again last week, is that the fuel pool building, the building that holds all that very, very radioactive fuel, which could make what happened 2 years ago look small by comparison, they say that building has been reinforced. So if there's another earthquake, it's safe. But does anybody believe TEPCO? No. Not after what they said about the disaster. The other interesting thing about what's going on in Fukushima is, lots of the problems, is the workers who are working in Fukushima. It's amazing how little they're paid. There's about 3,000 people working at the Fukushima plant every day. A small number are TEPCO, what they call seishain, so TEPCO full-time employees. But a much larger number are part-time workers, contractors, those kind of people. And this is a survey to Reuters, according to Reuters this week, 70% of the workers surveyed by TEPCO last year, this is last year, so it's got worse, are made about 837 yen per hour. 837 yen per hour is about $10 an hour, 10 US dollars an hour. That's what they get. Isn't it incredible that people who are doing this kind of work on the front lines of the worst disaster since Chernobyl are getting $10 an hour to do this kind of work. The other issue, of course, is that TEPCO keeps losing workers because they keep getting too much radiation. So you're officially allowed an exposure of 100 millisieverts of radiation in 5 years. 100 millisieverts of radiation in 5 years is very, very high. That's your limit. That's your limit. And once you reach that limit, you have to go. You cannot work anymore at the power plant. So TEPCO has lost about 146 workers in the last year, and that problem will pick up because people don't want to work for $10 an hour at a nuclear power plant, and they will have this problem of trying to get workers. So the separate parts of the problem, if you put them all together, what you have is an enormous human tragedy, maybe as many as 200,000 people whose lives have been completely turned over by this crisis. You have an enormous human cost. Nobody really can predict how much it's going to cost to clean this up. The highest estimates go as far as $800 billion for the whole thing, commissioning the nuclear power plant, compensating people, cleaning up from the contamination. And for years to come, you're going to have lawsuits. People are going to get cancer. They're going to say, well, that was because of Fukushima. They're going to claim money back. That's going to go on for many years. So the cost of this is enormous. And then you have the problem of where to store the nuclear fuel. Where do we store this? When we take it out, this fuel that's in the power plant at the moment. Nobody knows where that's going to go. Nobody knows what it's going to cost. Nobody knows how long it will need to be stored. You also have the problem of who is going to clean up the power plant. Who? Are they going to be able to find people to do that? Are they going to pay people proper compensation? So let's say if you talk to Shoji-san or any of the people, I talked to many people from Futaba village, which is very close to the power plant. It was about 8,000 people. They're all gone. They're all over Japan. You know, they're in Tokyo, they're in Osaka, they're all living in temporary housing. Most of those people, what they want is for the government to say, or TEPCO to say, look, here is $2,000,000, right? Like, you know, about $200,000, $250,000. This is to enable you to buy a new house somewhere, restart your life in Saitama. You know, that's all they want. They're not greedy. But the government, they believe the government will never give them that amount of money because they're basing the compensation on the tax records of their houses. What their houses are estimated by the local governments in Fukushima to cost. And that price is very, very low because houses in Japan are not very expensive. Once they're built, they're not very expensive. So this is going to be a tragedy, a human drama, which goes on for many years. By the way, you know, if you ask me, was I before Fukushima anti-nuclear? I would have said I was ambiguous, you know? I would sit on the fence. That's what I would have said. Because of global warming. A lot of people will tell you nuclear power is the only way we're going to be able to fight global warming. That's what I would have said. Now, if you look at the cost of cleaning up from Fukushima and add it to the cost of nuclear power, it's not clear to me at all that nuclear power is cheaper than anything else. In fact, it looks much more expensive. And I'll leave it there for your questions. Thank you.
大家睇下冇問題咁提出嚟，可以大家傾下。或者一點補充啦，咁頭先最後提到話提倡核能嘅人咧，成日話核電咧就可以咧有助解決呢個溫室效應問題。咁其實好多實證研究顯示咧，如果你成個 life cycle， 即係由採有礦起，去到咧最後要將呢啲核廢料要所謂處理啦，其實冇得處理就係拱埋一邊，希望10萬年之後都冇事發生。其實如果成個 life cycle 去分析咧，其實核電咧都係用好多化石燃料同埋排放好多溫室氣體。咁可能比較咧同 呢個天然氣咧係差唔多嘅啫。所以話核電係零排放咧，其實係一個係以偏概全，甚至係咧好誤導性嘅講法嚟。咁唔知大家有冇咩問題可以係啦，隨便發問或者有意見都可以提出。
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? It depends on the type of radiation. Different radiation has different life limits. So the one that like iodine, for example, the iodine groups, they have quite short lifespans, and they dissolve quickly in seawater. But cesium, which is the one that everybody worries about, certain types of cesium have half-lives of 30 years or more. So they linger. And if you think about the Chernobyl disaster, it's now what, 27 years since no, it's more, it's 28 years since Chernobyl, 1986. And still, the area around Chernobyl is too contaminated for people to live after all that time. And that's because of the long-lasting radiation and stuff. Not them all, some of them. As for where it went, the radiation from Fukushima, well, the last calculation, the one we use in the book, is that Fukushima in total released about 1/5 of the radiation of Chernobyl. That's the government estimate, 1/5 of the radiation of Chernobyl. Most of it, initially we thought it would come south, down towards Tokyo. But because the way the wind was blowing, it went up north, and it hit the sea. The sea breezes coming in pushed the radiation inland, and it rained over places like Namie, Itatemura, those mountainous villages, and they're the most contaminated, apart from, of course, around the plant, around the nuclear power plant. So those villages would probably not be inhabitable for many, many years to come. Nobody is saying how long, but of course everybody thinks of Priapat, you know, the Chernobyl place, the ghost town. Everybody thinks about that place, which is still a ghost town 27, 28 years later. And most of the people who are from those towns think it's going to be that length of time. Most of them, of course, are quite elderly, so they don't think they'll ever go back home. Do you want me to explain these photographs? Just, if you have a question, just put up your hand. But just to explain these photographs, this is Sakurai-san. Sakurai-san is the mayor of Minami-Soma. Very interesting guy, because he wants to turn Minami-Soma into an anti-nuclear sort of center, you know, a research center for renewable energy. He's also very critical of the government, very critical of the media in Japan. But I sort of feel sorry for him in a way, because he's trying to bring this city back to life. And he's telling people, you know, it's safe here, come back, because that's his position, he has to say that. But a lot of people don't believe it's safe. And he's kind of squeezed, you know, he's a good guy, squeezed between these two things, right? He has to bring his town back to life, but he has to give reassurances to people who don't necessarily believe them. This is Katsuzo-san, of course, and his family, who had to move. This is a fisherman who I interviewed in a lot for the book, and he cannot fish. What he does every day is, well, not every day, a couple of times a week, he goes out and he collects gareki, what's called gareki, or the, what do you call gareki in English? The debris from the tsunami and from the disaster. But he cannot fish because the sea is still too radiated. They come back every week or so, and the fishermen gather on the dock. He's in Soma, a place called Soma, and they read out the radiation levels. and then they all kind of sigh because the radiation levels is too high. Sorry, you have a question?
Yeah, I believe the previous Japanese. I believe the previous Japanese government wanted to phase out nuclear power by 2030. This new government, I believe Abe, they first said they sort of changed position a month or two ago. What's your opinion? What will they do?
Well, first of all, the previous government is the DPJ government, the Democratic government. They were a sort of liberal left kind of government, more liberal than the current government. They didn't give a clear commitment. It's very interesting. They didn't say we're going to phase out nuclear power by 2030, 2040. If you look at actually what they did, they raised it. They raised it as a possibility. But they never, the cabinet never signed off on that commitment. And what that means is they were responding essentially to public protests. There was an awareness in the party that nuclear power is very unpopular. You know, it's about 70% of people now in surveys against nuclear power. There was a series of large demonstrations after Fukushima, climaxing in a very big demonstration in Yoyogi Park, 170,000 people, the biggest maybe since the 60s. There was a series of demonstrations outside of the Prime Minister's office every Friday night. They're still going on actually. Every Friday night, climaxing with an estimated, this is estimated, I wasn't there, but 150,000 people. So very large, you know, for Japan, I mean, that's unheard of, you know. And eventually the Prime Minister at the time, Noda-san, was forced to meet the protesters. He didn't want to, you know. And after that, they came out with this vague promise to phase out nuclear power. It was important because it puts it out there, but it wasn't a promise, you know, it wasn't a legal promise. And of course, this new government, the LDP, conservative government, long history of cooperating with nuclear power companies. There's a thing called the Genpatsumura in Japan, which is the nuclear village. It means the government, LDP, the nuclear power companies, academia and the media, particularly the Yomiuri, they all work together. So the LDP is a key part of that. And they have said in so many words, Abe-san, before he became Prime Minister, said, no, it's too soon to phase out nuclear power. And although they haven't said anything as clearly as we want to scrap that vague promise to not, you know, to phase out nuclear power by 2030-40, nobody believes that they are going to phase it out. And they are putting pressure on the local governments to restart those nuclear power plants, especially the biggest. So the biggest is Kashiwazaki, which is in Niigata. It's a 7-reactor power plant. It's the biggest in the world. And TEPCO is losing a lot of money because it's not open. And the government is putting pressure on them behind the scenes. Now the problem that's holding them up is safety checks. Safety checks have got much stricter. Also, of course, local opposition. And that will hold them up for, I think, will hold them up for many years to come.
Thanks for the presentation, sir. So you mentioned the demonstration in Japan about the anti-nuclear. I was wondering who are the leaders of this kind of movement, this movement? It's local politicians or environment NGOs or international NGOs like Greenpeace or something?
Yeah, that's a very, so the question was about the leadership of the anti-nuclear movement? Right. It's interesting because if you look at those 2 demonstrations I cited, the big one in Yoyogi Koen, that was led by what you kind of might call the older left generation, you know. Oe Kanzaburo, who's a very famous Nobel Prize winner, he's about 70 something, you know, he's in his 70s. On the stage, on the day that the demonstration happened, it was in July July last year, most of the people on the stage were about 70, one was 80, one was like 87, you know, they were all pretty old. And in fact, you worried about them because it was so hot. You know, are they going to be okay? But the crowd were kind of a mix of the old 60s, 70s, you know, radical generation, the anti-Vietnam War, the environmentalists, but they were quite elderly, right? But it was a mix of those and people who'd never been on a demonstration before, housewives, salarymen, people with, you know, prams, wheeling their children. That's really unheard of in Japan for those two to come together. You know, the old 60s and then the new crowd. That's, you know, it's clear where the leadership of that. The leadership of that is coming from this older generation, right? The Oikanzaburos and so on. But the other demonstrations, which are outside of the Prime Minister's residence every Friday night, that's more the younger generation, slightly more radical, organized around the internet. They tend to organize spontaneously. You know, of course they know what's going on there every week, but they tend to be slightly less organized. They use the internet, mail, social networks to make sure that everybody's there on time. And there's a lot of them. There's different groups acting together. You know, like Greenpeace is part of it. Lots of anti-nuke groups sort of collectively doing this, right? The problem in Japan with a lot of this kind of activity is sectarianism. Sectarianism means that they don't kind of cooperate. You know, and traditionally for these kind of demonstrations, they don't cooperate. I was on, everybody remembers the invasion of Iraq, 10 years ago now. I was on a protest against the war in Hibiya Park. And I remember, you know, all over the world there was huge demonstrations. I don't know if you recall. There was over 1 million people in London. There was 1 million in Spain. There were so many, even in America there were big demonstrations. In Japan there was 25,000. You know, it was tiny, right? And there were 3 different demonstrations at the same time, all organized by different groups. You know, one was the trade union movement. One was the sort of radical left, you know, the Chukakuha and the sort of really radical left crowd, right? And then the other was the non-sector, you know, the non-sector groups, right? We're neither the old trade union movement or the old left, you know, we're new, we're young. But they couldn't collaborate, you know, they couldn't get together and make sure that they had a big demonstration. It was very unusual. So I think it's interesting that they have sort of collaborated to do the demonstrations against nuclear power outside the Prime Minister's office. But there are still different groups, different factions, you know.
多明呢喺佢一篇文我睇過嘅咧，佢就提過日本經過呢個係即係我睇過佢一篇文啦嚇，就佢話日本咧其實喺福島嘅核災之後咧係有1%嘅國土咧係受到污染嚇，咁我哋唔係講海洋添啦嚇。I read one of your articles. About 8%, 8%咁我諗呢個咧，對於即係譬如我哋喺香港覺得即係大亞灣又離我哋50公里以外啊，諸如此類啦嚇，嗰種嘅自滿啦嚇 ，complacency 覺得嚇，即係咁冇乜嘢啊嚇，都係一個警號咯嚇，咁或者即係喺呢個。嗰個所謂污染嘅程度上，或者係都可以幫我哋講講啦。咁另外一樣嘢就係即係同呢個有關嘅，就譬如我哋而家喺香港仲是好多啲話關注呢個核嘅危險嘅環保團體咧，咁佢哋都喜歡講話我哋講下20公里啊，抑或30公里去舉行下演習。到時點樣嚇？即係有規律地逃離現場咩咁？即係仲係呢一類咁嘅死到嚟都唔知啊嘅一種嘅心態去討論呢個問題咯。咁我覺得呢個係當然係經過好長期去培養出嚟嘅，即係一種嘅諗法啦嚇，咁琴日Dr. McNeil 講過一樣嘢嘅，我都想去今日即係再同我哋分享一下，就係話可能你越近危險嘅現場，你越係自己自己，唔想再提呢件事嚇。咁我唔知即係同佢分享下之後，我哋會唔會嗰個點咧？個警覺性高啲啦。
How to raise people's awareness, is that right, Siwa? That's the question? Complacency. Right. Well, I mean, the problem is, part of the problem is that the nuclear utilities, the electricity utilities, are so powerful. They, in the case of Japan, I don't know much about, to be honest, about Hong Kong, but I know in Japan, they spend a lot of money in the media. Advertising, sponsorship, it means that it's quite hard, it was quite hard before Fukushima to discuss anti-nuclear options. And I think there is a similarity with China and Japan. One similarity is that Japan planned or built a lot of those nuclear power plants during a period when it was growing very fast. You know, the economy was growing 10% a year, 11% a year. Phenomenal, really phenomenal growth. A bit like China now. And there was this enormous rush, you know, we have to build, we have to get electricity, we have to have our own power. We can't keep importing oil, we can't be depending on other countries. And what that meant is they ignored a lot of the warnings. There were people protesting against nuclear power in Japan in the 60s and 70s. They were saying, you know, this ground is not safe, there's a history of earthquakes, a history of tsunami, you can't build here. I once went to a power plant called Hamaoka, which is south of Tokyo, Shizuoka Prefecture, and this old anti-nuclear activist who was 90, you know, 90 years of age, he took me to the power plant and he said, watch this, and he picked up a rock and he crumbled it in his hands. You know, if you can imagine building a power plant on a rock that's crumbling. And he said, this is what they built the power plant on, you know. And we were saying in the 70s, when the early 70s when they were building this, you can't build here, you know, it's too dangerous. But because it was national policy, because it was the newspapers, the government, academia, all of the powerful people in the country saying, no, no, it's okay, we need this, we have to have it. That message kind of got drowned out. And that seems to me to be quite similar to Japan. Now, I think what you can't disguise is the impact of one of these disasters when it happens. The government can say now, as it does in Japan, everything's fine, we're back to normal, we're going to reopen these power plants. But you just, when one of these accidents happens, it's so enormous, the impact is so enormous, you know. The cost is so huge, the human impact is so vast, that you cannot just sort of brush it under the carpet. Everybody now knows what Chernobyl was, everybody knows what Fukushima was, you know, everybody knows 3 Mile Island, right? Or most people know 3 Mile Island, I hope they do. So that's the kind of, if you like, that's what you need to build on if you're determined to get rid of these power plants. The legacy, you have to keep that legacy alive and say, this is what it costs, this is the actual cost, you know?
Yes, Japan is the industrial powerhouse in Asia. Germany is the industrial powerhouse in Europe, and Germany's committed, even under a conservative government, to phasing out and having renewable energy, which I think is great. Has Japan ever, they followed Germany a lot, like Reconstruction after World War II. Have they thought about doing what the Germans are doing now?
Yeah, it's been a debate in the media, and among a popular debate as well, what Germany's doing. There's a variety of reasons why Japan feels it's different. First of all, Germany has more of a tradition of popular protest and of political signals from the people reaching the political machine, if you understand what I mean. Right, the Green Party, for example, is actually in government. It's unimaginable that the Green Party would be in government in Japan, at least now. It just would not happen, you know. That's one big difference. The other difference is, and people in Japan will tell you this, Germany is able to switch off its nuclear reactors quickly because it can import power from France, which is a nuclear power, right? And there's a slight, you know, the argument in Japan is, well, that's slightly hypocritical, you know, that they can say we're not nuclear anymore, but we're relying on France. I would say the other sort of major difference is Japan has always felt itself isolated, unique in its own way, an island nation. It has to rely on itself. Germany, because of its geographical position, is able to feel itself more of a community. Of course, if it has an accident in Germany, it impacts everybody, There's a number of differences that you cannot play down if you're going to discuss the German and Japanese case, But I would say you're right. The fact that Germany, a big industrial power, a rich industrial power, has said we're scrapping nuclear power has had an impact on Japan and will have an impact for years to come, I think.
或者咧有少少數字補充啦，或者分享啦。咁咧其實311福島核災之後咧，咁好多人就當德國宣布話將會放棄核電嘅時候咧，好多人就話德國咧就即刻需要喺周邊嘅國家咧輸入核電。咁其實睇翻啲數據咧，因為歐洲咧唔同國家咧啲電網係相聯㗎，咁佢哋之間咧唔同時刻會將啲電輸來輸去買賣咧係好正常嘅事。咁其實睇翻，如果成年嗰個應該係2011年由1月去到11月咧，德國咧其實雖然曾經有時間咧由法國入口核電，但係到最後總計咧係一個電力嘅輸出國嚟㗎。反而咧法國呢一個7成依賴核電嘅國家咧，其實仍然要咧向周邊國家買入核電。咁即係呢度要清楚咯，因為咧我都喺唔同場合聽過一啲擁核嘅專家講話德國唔用核電就要同周邊國家輸入核電咯，咁呢個唔係個事實嚟嘅。
That's very interesting, yeah. Well, I think the perception, and we should probably just say, the perception is really strong in Japan. That's how Germany was able to switch off so quickly. It's interesting if it's not true, because I actually thought it was true as well. I haven't looked at the figures like you have. Thank you.
我想問一問咧，而家咁多人去反核啦，咁大家都知道點解即係其實就因為我哋嘅要求啦，係咪啊？我哋嘅 consumption 啦，所以我哋先至需要咁多嘅power 啦energy 啦。咁但係如果我哋去反核，但係如果我哋本身嗰個生活態度都係要方便啊、舒適㗎，咁我哋唔會改變啊。咁我話天方夜譚嘅啫喎，即係你反就只不過用把口去反就，唔係話身體力行。咁譬如好似而家係日本嘅嗰啲咁多去反對嘅，或者係而家全世界咁多去反對呢個核能嘅人，佢有冇去改變佢嘅生活模式咧？佢有冇去改啲簡單生活咧？用少啲電咧？咁我覺得呢樣嘢先重要咯。
Well, that's a really difficult question, and I don't know if I have the answer. But let's put it like this: for years, the utilities in Japan control electricity. They control the supply as well. Like TEPCO, for example, controls the entire supply of electricity to Tokyo, and they would always say, "No, nuclear power is the cheapest. We have to keep making that. Alternatives are too expensive." Now, everybody criticizes Prime Minister Naoto Kan, who was the Prime Minister during the Fukushima crisis. But one of the things he did was, well, first of all, he went out against nuclear power. He came out explicitly and said, I'm against nuclear power. But the other thing he did was, he created a situation, he created 2 laws which made it legal for local electricity suppliers of alternative energy to sell to the grid, to the electricity grid. Do you get what I mean? So the electricity companies now legally must buy some of their electricity from these alternative suppliers, right? That's one of the impacts, one of the sort of small impacts, if you like, of the disaster. That can be built on, that can become a much bigger thing. Well, the example I always give about the cost of nuclear power and how can we switch over to alternatives and won't it cost too much and how will we keep our lifestyles, all of those questions. I always talk about the Second World War. I talked about it yesterday as well. The Second World War in America, before Pearl Harbor, before 1941, it was a consumer economy. It wasn't a war economy. And it changed to a war economy in 6 months. After Pearl Harbor, FDR, the president at the time, said, we need thousands of planes, we need thousands of boats, we need a couple of million men, we need millions of bullets and bombs, right? And in 6 months, everyone, you know, the whole economy changed, right? Into a war economy, basically. And he got his shopping list, his war shopping list. Now, if governments were to treat energy in the same way, you know, as a crisis, not as something that has to be responded to with market signals and, you know, we have to be able to make money from it and so on. If they just said, there's a crisis, you know, we have to save, we have to make energy cheap and available and safe, and we have to get rid of nuclear power very quickly because before another accident happens. If they said that, you could make this huge change. That's what I think people like us, people who are against nuclear power, have to push for, you know, a real push from below.
May I ask one question? 一條咧就關於記者，我唔知係咪同道德操守定係專業嘅職責有關㗎啦。咁喺你份 paper 度咧，你就話好多日本嘅記者咧就覺得咧media had a duty to avoid causing panic。就咁咧，可能記者未必係因為俾人怕俾人炒魷魚，或者咧就錢銀嘅關係咧而唔去報導一啲敏感嘅事。可能佢真係出於一個責任咧，就驚住會引起大眾恐慌，所以最初期咧福島核災嗰陣咧，好多嘅輻射嘅污染嘅情況咧，冇好第一時間咧同大眾去講咁樣。咁我想問，即係如果記者面對呢一啲情況嘅時候，究竟佢仍然係要冒住引起即係呢個假設引起大眾恐慌嘅冒險咧，去講嘅真相啦？定係不如等下先，我哋聽住政府講先，我哋下一步等納所有 settle 咗啦，等大家咧可以安排好啲事咧，先至同我真相同大家講。
It's such a great question, you know. It's a really complicated question, I think. I'll try to answer it as best I can. Okay, so first of all, I think panic is a real issue. I don't want to dismiss it. On March 11th, after all the trains stopped in Tokyo, I was with my partner was pregnant at the time, and we had to go home really late when the train started again. And we went on the train from Yurakucho to Shibuya. And when we got off at Shibuya, there were thousands of people, because the trains had been stopped all day, thousands of people, you know, pushing from behind on the line over to the Inokashira line, right, the other side of the station. And it felt really dangerous, you know. There were so many people, there didn't seem to be any control. And I watched an old, wasn't that old, maybe in his 60s, man come out of the crowd and go, and he was having a heart attack or a stroke, something like that. So, at the worst of the nuclear crisis, the government commissioned a report which said that the radiation could reach Tokyo if there had been a meltdown, if the fuel pool in the Daiichi plant had gone up, and if there had been a meltdown in the Daini plant, which is just 10 kilometers south. It could have reached Tokyo. How do you evacuate a city of 36 million people? You know, the whole of Tokyo, right? The Saitama, Kanagawa, Chiba, and Tokyo is 36 million people. How do you evacuate that number of people? You know, and how many people would have died if they had tried that, right? That's the real issue. That said, I put this question to a couple of people who've studied the media after the crisis, and if you're interested, I can send you the article. One is a professor at Waseda called Noboru Ito. He's a professor of the media. And the other is a journalist, Takashi Uesugi. And what they both said is, in Fukushima, they had more information than they had in Tokyo. Which is kind of interesting, you know. Like the Fukushima local media, they say, did a clearer job of reporting what was happening. And the Fukushima reporters had this real dilemma. At one stage, they were afraid, because they're close to the disaster, you know. The Fukushima media is much closer than Tokyo, obviously. And they said, well what do we do? Do we give this information? Do we cause panic? And eventually they decided they did give the information, right? They said, reactor number 1 is exploded, that it's possibly releasing radiation. They gave all the information they had. That's what the media did. And it didn't cause panic. It didn't cause panic. The people who were told to evacuate, evacuated, right? But everybody, the whole of Fukushima didn't evacuate. And what these two people said, the journalist and the academic said, was people panic when they don't know what's going on. They're more likely to panic if they don't know what the situation is. And it's very clear from the Fukushima disaster that the government tried to hide certain things, you know. They didn't release the information about which way the radiation was going. And because of that, people went the wrong way. You know, people evacuated from the areas around the power plant into places like Namie, which was really heavily contaminated, you know, and they got a lot of radiation. They got a lot of radiation. So, personally, as a journalist, I think you have to give people the information they need to make decisions. That's my personal decision. That's what I think. And I think if you give people the right information, the accurate information, then they will react rationally. They won't panic. They won't panic. That's my belief. I'm sure people have a different opinion, but I think that Fukushima demonstrates partly that that's the case. And the interesting thing is, especially in Japan, even when all of the foreigners were leaving and the housewives were going to the west of Japan and so on, the salaryman stayed at work. And unless you, it seems to me in Japan, unless you push a panic button in the companies, unless the companies say you must leave, people won't panic. They'll stay. You want this one? Do you want to use this one? Maybe you could shout.
兩個問題，第一個同文思維一個可能都有啲關係。就係睇啲地圖見到，其實東京嘅北邊同埋佢嘅西邊嗰啲縣份都係已污染咗。其實都有冇人去討論過東京嘅本身個食水其實個狀況係點樣？因為我睇過一啲文，佢提過有關啲東京嘅啤酒啲嘢，佢哋提過就係其實已經係東京可能已經係冇乾淨嘅食水。第二樣嘢就係以前我睇過一啲新聞報道提過有關受災園種植出嚟嘅農作物受污染，但係呢啲報道好似全部都冇提過政府係有銷毀呢啲咁樣嘅農作物。其實到最後呢啲農作物而家去咗邊度？
Well, one of the problems when a disaster like this happens is it's so insidious. You know the word insidious? You know, it's so unclear and people become a little bit neurotic, you know? They become obsessed with what's in the water, what's in the air, you know? Especially people with children. And then a lot of mothers I talk to, they just don't know. They don't know if the water is safe, if the food is safe. And they don't want to transmit that kind of neurotic feeling to their children, to make their children, you know, nervous little people who grow up going, can I eat this? Can I breathe this? You know. Personally, I believe that the air in Tokyo is reasonably safe. You know, safe enough for my infant boy, let's put it that way. I don't drink the water. I don't drink the water. We buy purified water. If the water, there's so many independent checks now of water, you know, lots of people, it's not just the government that can check water, it's lots of universities, independent NGOs, Greenpeace, all kinds of people check the water and so on. And I believe if it was really contaminated, that it would be very difficult to hide. That's my personal belief. As for the food is a complicated issue, you know. There was a survey released by TEPCO last week. They said they caught a rock salmon, that's a type of fish, off the near the Fukushima power plant in their own nets that had radiation 5,100 times higher than government limits. 5,100 times higher than government limits. If you look online, you'll find that. That's the worst kind of radiation. That proves that the radiation is still around, it's still in the water, it's still in the air, and so on. The government says it's checking our food. And it may be that the food is safe. I don't know. I suspect there are holes in the way they check. That certain things are getting through. A lot of people in Tokyo are like me and my wife. We don't buy food from Fukushima Prefecture. We try to avoid food from the north of Japan, anywhere in Tohoku. And my wife in particular, because we have a baby, she's quite paranoid about that. I once came home with chicken from Iwate Prefecture, and she said, "Nani kore?" She was like really, angry that I bought that. So she says we always buy chicken from the south of the country. We always try to avoid vegetables from the north of the country. We buy our milk even from the south of the country. And I think a lot of people are like that, though not everybody by any means. I think a lot of people have just said it's fine. The government says it's fine, so we're going to keep eating.
嗰位朋友提過嗰個關於譬如我哋每個人都行為端正啲慳啲，或者係因為香港其實都有呢個講法啫，大家都食素啊咁樣咧，就大約啲核電都會唔見咗啊。咁我就唔係咁樂觀咯，我諗呢度要睇多啲嗰個歷史嘅情況。呢個核電係唔係由於我哋？因為實在係太花霍，當然我哋實在太花霍，呢個唔需要討論呢個嚇。所以就引申出嚟嘅咧，咁我諗你睇翻歷史嘅任何嘅國家去搞核電咧，我諗都冇一個咁樣咁直接嘅關係。香港大灣係當初話要起係輸70% 嘅電力核電嚇俾香港，但係當時香港係完全冇缺電嘅情況。連佢個 projection 話幾時咧都冇呢個情況嚇，係嗰樣嘢出現，然之後我哋就要冚咗佢。我諗其他嘅國家你睇翻呢啲咁嘅數字咧，都會知道。另外一個數字，我希望同大家分享，或者陣間阿田教授會講多啲，就係中國佢根據佢嗰個計劃係2030年大約係起到200幾台呢個核反應爐，但係只不過供應中國嘅6-7% 嘅電力。我哋去係咪話點樣去慳咗啲點樣嘅電係會可以令到佢唔起嗰幾百台咧？所以唔係一個電力嘅供應嘅缺乏嗰個問題啦，背後仲有一啲深遠嘅歷史嘅情況。我諗呢個可能喺日本都有佢嗰個相同嘅嗰個情況。當然係剛才Dr. McNeil 講過，就係佢嗰個經濟上去同埋佢。嗰個核能嘅發展係一齊上，但係中間係咪嗰個因果關係係咁直接嘅咧？還是呢個只係一個有好多嘅工業化嘅動力啦，好多呢個資本要流動下，要去好多人要建立佢哋嘅各種嘅勢力嘅範圍之下去產生嘅一樣嘢。咁呢個就唔係話我哋小民去慳多啲電就會唔見咗啲核廠。
或者因為時間差唔多，咁我哋要請下一位講者咧就分享下經驗。